All right, now we're going to bring on a former Republican congressman to talk about what's wrong with the Republican Party. He's the host of the podcast White Flag with Joe Walsh, and he also is the author of F Silence. So, not playing. Joe, welcome back.
Good to be with you, Cenk, always.
Yeah. So listen, we had the shooting in Buffalo, and so this is when the right wing says, "Oh, it's just a lone wolf. It's no big deal. You can't characterize the right wing and the Republican Party in this way." But it's not really a lone wolf. We also had the shooting in El Paso, also because of the Great Replacement Theory. We also had the shooting in the synagogue in Pittsburgh in 2018, also because of the Great Replacement Theory. All right wingers, all looking to attack. We see it on Tucker Carlson's show. I'm going to get to the politicians in a second. So. And Joe, on top of that, we have polling that shows that nearly half of Republicans now believe either strongly or somewhat in this white replacement theory. So in your experience, having been a Republican congressman, what do you think, like how real is this as a phenomenon within the Republican Party? Is it still, in your experience, in fringe, or has it become far too mainstream in the Republican Party?
Hey, Cenk, it's mainstream. Not only am I a former Republican congressman, I'm a former Republican radio or conservative radio talk show host. And the scary truth is, and you and I've talked about this before, the base of the Republican Party has become fully radicalized. And what does that mean? They no longer believe in truth. They've given up on democracy. And this ugly element of the base, which used to be more fringe, ever since Trump, is now mainstream. And this is the America's changing. I wish we had 1954 America back. I wish America was whiter. That's a part of now the Republican base. And people like Tucker Carlson and Hannity and the rest of them, they inflame it.
Yeah. So, Joe, I don't know if, like, since you spent obviously a lot of time in the Republican Party and as a conservative talk shows, et cetera, do they have a benign explanation for replace to do what, right? So, like, if somebody said to me, hey, you're gonna be replaced by black people or Latinos or Jews, I would say, okay, what am I getting replaced for? What was I, like, what's the topic matter? I don't know, maybe they're better than I am. Maybe the black guy's a better accountant than I am, and then he should replace me because I don't want to be an accountant. Like, and so the obvious explanation is, no, replace their power, and hence, obviously it's racial in its core. Do they even have an excuse or a non-racial reason that they talk about this issue?
You know, Cenk, broadly it's, and again, this was my base, and you know, full disclosure, I engaged in some of the inflaming of these folks, more than I'm proud of. But it's generally, we want white Christian America back, damn it, that's what we understand. So that's their broad feeling, and I still hear that every day from them. But Cenk, you nailed it. It's about power, it's about losing votes. They believe that if we let everybody in this country and we expand immigration and we don't secure the border, well, these are all future Democratic voters. And the Republican Party will never be able to survive in a country like that. That's what they believe.
Yeah, I mean, but super ironically, Trump in 2020 did better with Latino voters than he had in 2016 and better than Republicans in the past had. Doesn't anybody in the Republican Party say anymore, hey guys, instead of hating them and instead of assuming they're all gonna become Democrats and they're gonna replace white people, why don't we just try to win their votes?
Yes, Cenk, exactly. And that's the conversation that I'd engage in with my Republican colleagues in Congress all the time, Cenk, who would tell me privately, you know, the more these people who vote, we're gonna lose. And I would say exactly what you just said. Well, come on, let's persuade them. Let's convince them that freedom and opportunity is better than big government. But the Republicans didn't want to engage in that at all. Now, you make a really interesting point. White people are afraid of this whole we're being replaced thing. But no, Hispanics in this country, they don't look at it like this. And they are tending to vote more Republican. That's a problem that the Democratic Party has, because the Democratic Party, Cenk, is increasingly more out of touch with working class Americans.
Yeah, no, look, I would love to disagree with you on that, but you're not wrong. That's why we're both independent, because we can actually rationally look at what's right and wrong with both parties. And the Democratic Party's now leadership is filled with elitists. They never talk about economic issues. Everything is, cultural issues. And Joe, ironically, aren't the Nancy Pelosi's of the world allies with the Tucker Carlsons of the world, as they distract us from economic issues while their corporate donors rob us blind? And they both are happy to engage in the culture wars so that we don't focus on the actual robbery.
Completely, and Cenk, you and I may disagree on a lot of those economic issues, we would, but that's all these voters talk about. Look, Cenk, I hear over and over every day, I hear working class Americans across the board, they tell me, and I'll watch my language, they tell me that Republicans are jerks, Trump's just a liar, but Democrats are wimps who don't understand people like me. And so you're spot on, and you've talked to this a bunch. The Democratic Party, as bad as the Republicans are, the Democratic Party is becoming this party of like wealthier elites, utterly out of touch with what some working class dude anywhere out in California feels.
The minute that anyone on the left says that to them, it's both Democratic leaders, consultants, lobbyists, and most importantly, the mainstream media that will jump down your throat and say, no, do not believe your lying eyes. Those pathetically weak and incompetent Democratic leaders are actually lions and master strategists and amazing heroes. On what planet? They get steamrolled by Republicans on the daily when the Republicans have gone in this crazy direction, and they're still winning. Trump is now likely to win the next presidential election. You can't get any weaker than that. So look, I can go on for 20 minutes straight about that, but I actually want to come back to one unfortunately racial component in this story, okay, in the Buffalo shooting story. So in the white replacement theory, in a lot of the instances, the theory is, and Tucker Carlson has referred to George Soros, who's a code word for this, right? And the manifesto, the shooter talked about this. They say, we are going to be replaced by Latinos and black people, etc. But it's the Jews that are orchestrating this. So now it's coming through clear as day to people like me paying attention. If you tell anybody in Washington, they're still like, oh no. Both parties are great on it. They're the same on anti-Semitism. They're not in my opinion. But Joe, how much do you hear that? Did you hear that before? How much do you hear that today in right-wing circles when people think that everybody in the room's right-wing? And it's there,
Cenk. It's look, and I think you'd agree with me. There is anti-Semitism is interesting because you find anti-Semitism on the far right and the far left. It's not nearly as subtle though on the far right, because again, this notion of I want a white Christian America, we focus a lot on the fact that all these black and brown people, and they're upset about the black and brown people coming in, but they're also really upset as what they'll say, the Jews behind the scenes who are helping to orchestrate all of this. But all of my former Republican colleagues in the House and the Senate, not only are they ignoring the white supremacy that happened in Buffalo over the weekend, they won't say a word about this anti-Semitism in their own House.
Yeah, no question. And so now Elise Stefanik is the number 3 Republican in the House. She's in Republican leadership, and she's talking about a permanent election insurrection in her ads, saying that the immigrants are going to cause the insurrection by replacing presumably white people. And she talks about how granting amnesty to illegal immigrants, as if somebody was going to do that. No, that's not even on the agenda. Stefanik was basically a corporate Republican and a Paul Ryan acolyte. The fact that she has moved in a lunatic direction doesn't indicate that she's a lunatic, because she previously did not have any mental health issues, right? Is it a bellwether for which way the Republican Party is going?
Look, Cenk, all of us Republicans, we had a decision to make in this era of Trump. Do what we believe is right or sell our soul to get reelected. And the vast majority of Republicans, like Stefanik, sold their soul, adapted to Trump to get reelected and stay in power. And I get pissed off at all of these talking heads on MSNBC and CNN who continue to ask how much power Trump holds on the party. It's his party. And that is not changing anytime soon. He will be the 2024 nominee. No Republican will challenge him. And Elise Stefanik, Kevin McCarthy, all of these people know it.
So Joe, from your perspective as someone who's not on the left, when you see Biden say, oh, it's this fraction of the Republican Party that's ultra MAGA, and that's the problem, not all Republicans, isn't he in essence helping the Republican Party to pretend that the party is not all MAGA, is not all Trump, when in reality it is?
Yeah, it absolutely is, Cenk. And I think I read last week that a bunch of Democrats or liberals helped him 6 months of research come up with this ultra MAGA phrase. I don't know what that means or where that came from. I don't think Joe Biden and I don't think most Democrats understand the threat. This is not fringe in the Republican Party. This is now one of America's two major political parties is fully anti-democracy. And I don't know why Joe Biden is afraid to say that. He should. Every Democrat should.
Yeah, it's because what you're hearing from real people in America is true. The Democrats are weak. And,
yes.
And they are elitist. And so they think, oh, we should whisper in our cigar rooms about, oh, our due some of our Republican colleagues seem to be having a fit, but I'm sure that they'll regain their senses when the fever breaks. They are those stereotypes.
Hey, Cenk, you and I disagree on a lot of policy, but doggone it, you are a fighter and you fight for what you believe in. I can't think of one Democrat who is a fighter, who can roll up his sleeves and get into a ring with Trump or DeSantis. This is scary because I don't know of a Democrat out there who will fight.
Yeah, Joe, unfortunately, you're right. I mean, even guys I really like, Bernie Sanders, they absolutely refuse to fight. They think they're fighting, but no, they'll let Manchin and Sinema kill all their bills, take all the corporate cash. They'll never say a word about them, or they'll sit around the edges. They won't say, hey, that guy is corrupt. Okay, that Republican is a son of a bitch taking your rights away, right? No, yes. It's all super polite NPR BS. Stop whispering. We're in a frickin' brawl. Get in there and fight for our side, right?
I mean, and oh, by the way, that's what working class America, Cenk, right there wants to hear.
Yeah, but our number one problem, honestly, Joe, is the mainstream media, because they won't let fighting left get into the press. They just, it's an absolute blockade. They will not allow it. So all they do is put out soft, weak Democrats as if they represent us all. As if that's like the gold standard, to be soft and weak. If that's what the Democratic Party is, no wonder they're losing. All right, you see, we're both independent minded, okay? And we're not gonna listen to anybody's BS. So check out White Flag with Joe Walsh, that's his podcast. Joe, thank you for joining us, we appreciate it.
Cenk, keep doing your thing, man.